Hey, this is Fushalotl. So, a while ago I made a video on redesigning the Paldean starters, and because since it's been a while since the last time I recorded anything, I thought I would, try to go back to some Pokemon and try to redesign some of the other Paldean Pokemon. So, I decided to choose designs that I thought needed a little bit of something, a little bit, not necessarily improvement, but something to add a little bit more to the design. So yeah, let's just go right into it real quick. So for my first redesign, I decided to try my hand at Goldengo, and while I really do like the concept of Goldengo, it's for me it fell a little bit short, and I know for a lot of people it fell a little bit short. So as you can see, one of the big things that I tried to do with Goldengo's redesign is try to change the body type a bit, because I know the body type was a little bit off-putting for me personally, at least in the original design, because it was very for me it was very weirdly built. But I do understand that it was supposed to be kind of based off gold coins stacking on one another and building up to that kind of weird shape that would probably realistically come from stacking a bunch of gold coins together to make a figure. But I decided to go in the route of trying to make the gold coin stacking kind of more of a visual thing rather than dictating how the body is going to be shaped. So instead I decided that the body shape is going to be more towards skeleton, because Goldengo is still kind of based off a ghoul, Gimme Ghoul. I decided that it would be more interesting to try to make it lean more towards the modern interpretations of what a ghoul is. And so usually for those depictions of modern day ghouls, most people think of a more zombie skeleton-y creature, and I decided to lean into skeleton while still trying to be made out of gold and stuff, or the gold coins. So the way the body is built is sort of still very similar to how the body is structured originally, but I try to push the proportions to more skeleton to kind of really get that idea through. And I know a lot of people have opinions on the hair, Goldengo's hair, and for me personally, I didn't mind that it had hair. For me the issue was more how the hair was proportioned in a weird way, because it got for the rest of Goldengo, it tried really hard to keep the gold stacking aspect of it, and then I just kind of ignored it a little bit with the hair, because the hair tapers when it gets close to the head, instead of just kind of being a consistent row of coins, which is what I did in my design. I kept the hair, but I didn't taper it as much. To make it a little bit more interesting, I would also add coins floating nearby the hair, so you can kind of still tell that they're supposed to be made out of coins. And so that's what I decided to do with the hair. Hopefully that's a bit of an improvement. The other thing that I decided to change was the chest. In Goldengo's old design, it kind of seemed a little bit more like a fanny pack, sort of, which is fine, but for me it was kind of weird that the chest got a little smaller when it evolved instead of getting bigger. And so for my redesign, it's kind of more of a backpack, I guess, which I know doesn't really fit super well with the surfer aesthetic that original Goldengo design had, but I feel my design would still kind of have that surfer aesthetic, but maybe also a hiker or backpacking, or someone a little bit more naturey, I guess, which I still kind of fits in Goldengo being very active, but that's what I wanted to do. And in terms of colors, I pretty much stayed in the same color spectrum, or I picked the same color palette rather. The only thing that I really did change was adding some silver coins into Goldengo's design, because original Goldengo didn't really have a lot of colors going on. It was just basically gold, and then its little accessories were a different color, but I felt the design needed something a little bit more to kind of separate it out a little bit, separate out certain segments, so the eyes, the mouth, and then certain coin joints, I guess, are silver now, because I just, you know, I wanted to like separate it out a little bit. And yeah, so this is like my redesign. I did touch it up towards the end, so you can see some of the changes I had made after, you know, finished recording, but it's something that I think I personally would have really liked to like get after collecting a certain amount of coins. It seems more like of a bigger prize to me, but that's just my opinion. You know, I'm not I don't want to say that I like fixed the design or anything, but I you know, tailored it a little bit more to my taste. And I also added the shiny, which Goldengo doesn't have an official shiny in the games. It's like shiny locked in Scarlet and Violet, so that was like pretty disappointing for a lot of people. So, you know, I gave it the shiny that, you know, a lot of people would have been like, it makes sense. I gave it a silver shiny, which, you know, is like something that a lot of people like naturally jump to, and I think it looks really good. But yeah, that's my Goldengo redesign. So jumping into my next redesign, I decided to tackle another one that was supposed to kind of be like a big momentous like catch or like evolution, but just kind of fell flat for me a little bit, and I know definitely fell flat for a lot of people. And that design is Palafin. So let's just jump into that one. So for Palafin, the design that I really wanted to change the most was its hero form, which I know is like the one that a lot of people had issues with. And among those issues were like the criticisms of it having too much of a humanoid design. And while like I normally don't really mind like human-esque designs in Pokemon, it really did kind of strike me odd for Palafin that it just really leaned into like very much a human design. And it was just a little jarring for me, because it was just like it was just a dolphin, which, you know, it doesn't really correlate too much to having human anatomy. And I feel like they kind of just forced it into like they just forced it into a human body so they can have like that superhero motif a little bit. And I don't mind the superhero aspect of it. I just wish they kind of kept a little bit more of the dolphin aesthetics. So that's what I kind of did in my redesign. Like I changed like the glove hand arm thing that old Palafin had into like more like of actual flippers, because I don't think it's necessary to like turn them into hands. Although I did kind of like segment it out a little bit, so they kind of like almost are like paws a little bit, but not really. I just really kind of more wanted to like keep the fin shape and the fin aesthetic, just so, you know, it reads a little bit more as like aquatic dolphin. And one of the other things I decided to change were kind of like the water bubbles that it had on its body. That, you know, in old Palafin, they kind of like resembled like the hood of a cape, kind of, and like the segment part that would attach to the cape. But I decided that it was just a little too shapely for me. Like they were supposed to be like bubble designs, but I didn't really see them as that, because, you know, they have like more of like a shape. They're more like shapely than I would assume those bubbles would be. And so I decided to in turn just redesign it. I decided to make like the bubbles more round so they can read a little bit more like bubbles, but also kind of like in place of like the arms and hands, they would instead be like the muscles of like Palafin. So that way, you know, it would clearly still be a dolphin, but you can have like the jacked superhero aspect, like with the bubbles. So I feel like that was like the aspect that I wanted to go with it. Some of the other things I changed were like the eye mask and like having a fin at the back of the head, because I felt like the eye mask was like a little bit too weird in original Palafin. Like I understand that it's supposed to be like a little cyclone or hurricane, like, you know, like the overhead weather shot of it, and it's supposed to be like the eye in the storm, which I thought was really good, but I know a lot of people were off-put by it. So I decided to kind of like merge it together into more of an eye mask shaped for that like superhero aspect. And the other thing that I thought the superhero part needed was like hair, because I feel like Palafin is like really leaning hard into like superhero, especially American superheroes. And say what you want, but a lot of American superheroes have like, you know, very stylized hair, or like hair is like one of like the things that they like to like push up a lot or whatever in comics. And I'm surprised that they didn't transform the fin to kind of like be sort of like push back hair a little bit like in the superhero design. But that's what I decided to do instead. In terms of colors, I decided to stay in the exact same color palette as original Palafin. I actually don't mind the color palette at all. I thought it was really well picked, you know, blues, a little bit of red, and the whites. I just added a little bit more white to the other sections that needed to be added white. But other than that, it was more or less the same. I really did enjoy it, so I didn't change too much about it. I did, you know, try to make the bubbles a little bit more see-through with my coloring and lining, but yeah, that's pretty much my redesign for Palafin. And I did change some aspects in post again, you know, a little bit of change of the eye mask. The eyes were like a little bit weird. The eyes are kind of like a little bit more of a blend between the old eyes and the eyes that I gave it, just to like, you know, kind of like reminisce it back to the old Palafin, but also kind of gave it like swimming goggles, which I kind of felt was like very funny to me, that it was just like, and also gave like a little bit of lifeguard, like old school lifeguard energy, like having the goggles being jacked. And I thought that was like fun to have like both like a lifeguard superhero kind of approach to it, which was kind of like just a happy accident. But I do enjoyed how it turned out, although I know maybe the new eyes might be off-putting to some people, but you know, it is what it is. I tried my best at it. If you don't like it, that's fine, but you know, I really liked how this guy turned out, and I hope you guys do too. Oh, and before I forget, I kept Palafin's shiny the exact same as its old shiny. I really liked it a lot, gave it like an edgy anti-hero vibe to it. So I decided to kind of keep that the same. So, you know, I just really liked it. I kept it the same, and I think it looks good in both. So, yeah. Now moving on to my final redesign, I decided to tackle the pseudo-legendary of this region, Excalibur. Now for me, I really like the pseudo legendary designs because I feel like they're very like strong and powerful designs, but in this generation I felt like Excalibur kind of just fell a little bit short for me for some reason. Okay, so let's go into my redesign. So I know a lot of people like Excalibur and like what it's based on, you know, specifically like sort of on Spinosaurus and like on a separate dinosaur that has a sail on its back that's based on Spain, but also like the old school Godzilla like costumes, apparently, just like having it being like really stiff and really awkward in proportions. So for my redesign, I kind of still wanted to keep that silly stiffness, I guess. So for me, I felt like Excalibur was like trying too hard to blend that cool like dinosaur aesthetic and like the silly goofy nature of the costumes, and I felt like it didn't achieve either of them particularly well to me. So I decided to double down and make it both a little bit more like cool and intimidating while also making it more goofier. So to do this, I kind of like leaned into the proportions a little bit, like having like it being like weird, long, and awkward. But I decided to change that aspect around a little bit so that way its entire like body neck area is covered with ice. So that way there's like a kind of a reason to its stiffness. And then to like really bring in home like the cool like dinosaur-y aspect, you know, I kind of like changed the claws a little bit and changed like the little feather segments that it had before in its old design. And, you know, just kind of like really try to like make it a little bit more like not edgy in terms of like, oh, so edgy, but like edgy as in like, you know, physical proportions, kind of, to like really like bring it home that this is like made out of solid ice. And I felt like that would have been like a really cool aspect that they didn't kind of really go into, but I felt like it was like interesting to do. But yeah, I try to keep like the general proportions and like ideas the same because I didn't want to like stray too far from like, you know, a design that's like, you know, some people like, some people don't. And you can also like see me add like certain segments to the body and stuff that weren't there before. I did that when I like start adding color. You'll see that it was just to like add more variation to color, which was like the other thing that I had issues with Excalibur. because I felt like it was like very much just one color really, and then like, you know, bits and pieces of just like other colors. It was just like, it was mostly just like kind of like a dark gray, which I didn't really, you know, it was fine, but I decided to like really like add a lot of like those reds that it had and a little bit more of like the ice, just to kind of like, you know, offset the like gray a little bit and make it look more like an ice type, make it look a little bit more like a dragon type. And I also wasn't done with that design, because I know some people would have been mad that it was just like still upright. And so when I made that original design, I had the fun idea that that was like it's coming out of the Pokeball like pose before it would like slam down and just like be sliding all over its belly. So, which is what I have it like depicting here. Like this is like after it comes out of the Pokeball and just like slams hard down into the floor. And in my head, I thought it would be really cool. Like it would use its belly to like slide around real quick, and like in the wild or in battle or how it moves basically is that it uses all of its limbs to drag itself, and then, you know, while attacking it would either use like the sail on its back to like cut through stuff, or it would like repeatedly open and snap its snout to like you know, grab smaller Pokemon, or, you know, grab its prey or whatever. It would be something really cool to like add to its design, kind of like a more feral aspect, which I feel would like add a lot to like Excalibur's personality a little bit. Just kind of like, you know, it would just be interesting, at least to me. And I know some people wouldn't like, you know, like it just kind of like doing that, but I felt like it was like a fun idea to try to like make it more like goofy and make it more intimidating, because like I said before, I felt like I was trying to like accomplish both of those but kind of fell short a little bit. So I like tried to like think of ways to like, you know, amplify both, you know, like a very effective way. And for some reason this is like what came into my mind. And yeah, but like I really do enjoy like the concept that I made for it. I feel like it might be like hard. I don't know like how hard it would be to like implement it into the game. Like it have like a, I guess like a stirring pose, and like how maybe it like lumbers about like standing upright, and then have it slam down when it like wants to like run and stuff. But it would have been something very cool, I think. And for this like falling down position, yeah, it just pretty much has the exact same color scheme as well. You know, it gets to like, you know, really show off the reds and blues and stuff. But yeah, I made the colors on this one pretty much the exact same too, you know, just the dark grays, blues, and reds, but like adding it a little bit more just to kind of like amplify the feeling, the vibe a little bit more to its design, to like really, you know, accentuate ice and dragon. So yeah, that's my redesign of Excalibur. For the shiny, I decided to like change the shiny slightly, because it has one of those shinies that don't really change too much. All it really does is like change like the blues slightly and make like the red into more of like a pinkish color. But I decided to like lean into like what it was trying to do a little bit more, make the body a little bit more like teal, turquoise, like a little bit more minty, the body, making the ice white, making the body a little bit more like minty green, and then like really amplifying the pink feathers so it looks different from the red. I kind of like the shiny. At least it's like something a little bit more noticeable. And I know, you know, the color palette up for question, but you know, I felt like, you know, it's different enough that you can tell when it's shiny and when it's not. But yeah, those are my redesigns. You know, it was nice getting in the back of the swing of things. By, you know, making a new Pokemon redesign video. And so yeah, like I hope that you guys like these redesigns, and if you don't, that's fine. But you know, I personally am really proud of what I, you know, managed to do with these designs and concepts and stuff. And I know it's been a while since I like last uploaded anything, and I'm really sorry about that. You know, I've been getting really busy and I just don't have enough time to like record stuff pretty consistently. Like, I'm really gonna try to get back into at least trying to be a little bit consistent, you know, and, you know, not have long stretches of time where I don't upload anything. But, you know, please be patient with me. It's a little daunting at times, but I'll definitely try my best, and I'm really sorry for those who've been waiting a really long time for me to pretty much upload anything. So, you know, here's another Pokemon video. I just hope, you know, you guys understand, be a little bit more forgiving about, you know, my poor time management skills. Once again, tell me if you have any ideas of like what I could do for videos or anything like that, or if, you know, if you want something completely unrelated to Pokemon, you could also just tell me, and I'll very much consider the idea. But yeah, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Alright, bye.